That's fine. So just want to give everyone a little intro about you. Anyone who's not following you, but they should be. But a little intro about you and why you're interested in this kind of stuff, really.
Yeah, sure. So I got a bit of an interest in occlusion a few years ago when I started working in private practice, actually. And my boss sort of said to me, okay, yeah, thanks for your portfolio. I can see you can do some all right single tooth stuff, but you're going to need to spread that to the full mouth cases working here. So I did a bit of occlusion training, and then the methods that I got taught for basically finding centric relation were great, but then I found there was a few scenarios where it didn't work, and we'll sort of touch on that later, I guess. But I did a partial denture course with Finlay Sutton, which I'm sure everybody knows is just the absolute guru of dentures. And he introduced me to this method of this Gothic Arch Tracing, and it just fitted so well with all the cases that I was basically struggling with, just filled in all the gaps. And so that's how I got into this sort of method.
So I mean that leads us really nicely into the most important question, which everyone's asking, is what even is Gothic Arch Tracing? And I don't do it. So actually, this is just a selfish one. I want to actually just get your knowledge of it. So, yeah. I know what it is, but just for people who maybe don't know about it, what is Gothic Arch Tracing, first up?
So effectively, it's a way of guiding a patient into centric relation without forcing them into it, which is, that some methods really sort of put pressure basically onto the mandible to guide it into place. And then there's other methods like by manual manipulation, which is what I got taught on the Dawson course, where you use operator skill effectively to try and guide this patient into position. But sometimes if you have to use something like a Lucia jig or a leaf gauge, what you're going to do if they've got no front teeth, or what you're going to do if they've only got front teeth and no back teeth, where you're going to squirt your bite reg and that sort of thing. So there are other methods, but the Gothic Arch, I've got one here, is basically a plate and a pin. And you get these made off a set of study models. So this was a patient that case. And effectively, you get set up on their either upper or lower arch, doesn't actually matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pin goes on the opposing, like so. And so when you then get them to bite together, all that hits is the pin on the plate. So what you can probably see here is I'm pressing them down, but the teeth are still touching. And so what you can do is just dial up this pin here, just raise the height of it, so that now it touches and no teeth touch, and they slide around on it. And so that's what the Gothic Arch Tracing is. It's a little pin and a little plate that effectively means you're taking their teeth out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say to the patients. I just say, look, you've got two different biting positions because your teeth have changed over your life. You've got two positions that you bite in. One is controlled by your teeth and the other is controlled by your jaw joint. And we want to build your new teeth to the position that's controlled by your jaw joint, not by your teeth, which have changed over the years. I just say this just takes your teeth out of the equation. Yeah. And so that's pretty much what it is.
So when you're then using these for, you said partial cases, obviously complete denture cases, it's it's a reliable way to put them in centric relation. Is it something you're going to be using for rehab cases? What's the,
Yeah.
are there any things you definitely don't use it for? Are there things that you now always use it for?
Yeah, sure. So the main patients that I found this for, initially it was, patients you can't use your leaf gauge on. So say they're missing the front upper 2 to 2, there's nowhere to put a leaf gauge, and the same with a Lucia jig. And then also, patients that say they've only got 3 to 3, you've got nowhere to put your wax or bite ridge or whatever. So that might be suitable to answer that question, actually, if that's all right for me to show those.
So prepared. You're so prepared. Get them around, mate.
Okay, so this patient, really lovely chap and educated guy, mid-30s.
Jeez.
Yeah. So aggressive perio, everything is moving a lot. And so you look at that and you go, okay, bite together. And he doesn't have a bite. Okay, so this case, we took a lot of teeth out. Everything was basically blowing in the wind, and he went away for some time. So that was him. And then he came back to me about a year later, because we wanted him to really think about this. And that's what he came back a year later like. So this tooth is basically just dropped. These ones have fallen out on their own. So he's like, right, can you just sort me out? So he was a really good case for tracing, purely because I just wanted to see where it took us,
Yeah.
And no amount of his teeth have been like that for 10 years, maybe longer. Deprogramming him might have been an option, but those teeth are moving so much that he can't wear a deprogrammer. I can't put a leaf gauge on that. It'll probably extract some of the teeth. I mean, then curly tongue through your mouth, those muscles have been working in the wrong place for such a long time. There's no way. So this was him using the Gothic Arch. Okay, so you can see he's quite propped open, but if anyone's ever done, say, a B splint, you'll know that you've got to have more space back to make sure the back doesn't touch. So if I just play this little video, so this is him. He's got the pin on the lower and the plate on the upper. I'm just telling him, just keep that pin on the plate and just slide forwards and backwards. And this is not slow motion or anything, okay? He is struggling. His muscles have no idea where to go. And so he's sort of going forwards and backwards. And the great thing about this is that the whole time you're using it, it's deprogramming. So it gets easier and easier and easier. And so he's sliding forwards and backwards and now side to side. And then for him, I just said, just go everywhere. Just slide all over that plate and see where it goes. And what happens is it creates a little triangle shape. We'll come to that in a bit. And so he's sliding around. And then then once I'm happy with the position, watch that tooth. I mean, this tooth here, right? As we come round, it's just like, nearly comes out on its own. And so we've got the position, and then register it with our futardi for this one. So that's a classic. That's a good case, which we're making big changes, and so we want to use this method. So he's fully dentate, but we can't get him into centric relation.
Yeah.
When would it not be suitable? Literally any time you're not restoring in centric relation. So Depends on your denture design, but like most of the time you're going to be restoring to MIP. So it's not, I don't use it every day. I probably don't use it every week.
So what was you mentioned that case that you sort of went through it with Finley. What was what was that case? Was that a partial? Do you remember it? What was, what about that case? What problem did it solve? The one when you first did your mentoring with Finley?
Yeah. So
I was digging it out the archives.
Let's have a look. Yeah, that was this one. That was this one. So really lovely chap, but he bit together and he only contacted on this 4. And and a little bit like, oh great, we've got a that'll be fine. And then I was like, actually, how do I know that he's not like completely posturing into that position and whatever? So this was a case of more, I just wanted to find out where his centric relation was. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna rebuild his whole mouth or do anything crazy with those teeth that are there. I just wanted to know how different that bite was to his centric relation.
Yeah.
And so we had a little Gothic arch made. So this is it. I'll go on to this bit later, but this is once it's been used in the mouth, we've got these little plates that you attach to the tracing, which is like a guiding hole to guide the pin into. And then, again, it's exactly the same as the last case. Get him to slide around, guide into the position, and then record it. This time I just recorded it on each side with some bite reg. And then it's just nice and sturdy. So this would be a case where you can't use the leaf gauge at the front, and even if you did have front teeth, there's nothing at the back to support your registration. So you struggle.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just
in terms of the actual then taking of it. So obviously you've shown the sort of the pinhole guide, and then you're using your futile D. What's determining that pinhole? Obviously you've said you're getting them to do the movement. So you've got the plate and you're essentially drawing on the plate with those movements, and it essentially produces an arrow, doesn't it? And sort of the most posterior point of that is when their jaw is in centric relation.
Yeah, exactly that. So, I mean, this one, I don't know if you're able to see it. This patient absolutely went to town on it and actually carved an arrow. You can see that a little bit. That's not meant to happen, but you just spray the surface. So this is obviously clean, but in fact, this was this case. So you spray it clean. I just use a Clued spray. Mm-hmm. You can use a China graph pen and color it in black. And then that's what it looks like after they've been sliding around on it with the pin. So exactly like you said, the arrow points to their centric relation. So you're getting them to slide forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards. And the crazy thing is that you start doing this and you think, okay, so I'll put this in and they're going to slide forwards and backwards. And you think, oh, is it going to be different or what's it going to look like? And it just draws this straight line forwards and backwards, and it just hits those two. Whilst sometimes they deprogram a little bit more and it goes a bit further back, but it hits those points every time. And obviously because it's guided by the TMJ, but the first few times you do it, it's a bit like, oh my God, it's actually working.
It actually works.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
we just had a question here. Sorry, mate. They've just asked, how do you know exactly sort of, it says the height on the base and the plane on the base to set the plates. I'm assuming they're saying, that you sort of said you're doing it until, is it just when there's no interference with the teeth? So you've got them completely gliding on the pin? Or are
Yeah,
you know,
so
are
I
you
think
raising OVD in cases and setting an OVD? Is it that kind of thing as well?
so. The only thing that Gothic Arch Tracing is recording is the centric relation position. So you're not setting the OVD. You're not doing anything else which you would aim to achieve on with your wax rims, you know, lip support, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it on a set of completes, then you need to do the wax rims first, and basically you set the height and everything else.
Aesthetics and all that bit. Yeah.
Yeah, with the wax rims. And this is literally just to record their position. If you're doing it on partials, it kind of depends on how many teeth. So the question about how high the height, I get my lab to set it so the pin is about halfway, and then I can control it. So I can dial the pin up or dial it down. It's literally just screws like so, and goes up and down. Yeah, so yeah, it's a lab-based question. So I think if we come onto the lab bit after the clinical bit, just to base, because I had a couple of questions like, what do you ask your lab technician to do?
Sure.
And yeah, we can cover that quite easily. So just quickly, after we've got our arrow, technically you could just, if you had a really compliant patient, you could just be like, okay, slide backwards and try and keep them on the tip of the arrow. But it's a bit more predictable, and this is the way I got taught. You get these little discs that come with the set. And in the middle of the disc is a hole, which is the perfect size for the pin.
Yeah.
And so you just put that over the arrow, a few little blobs of wax. It's literally just red sheet wax, pink sheet wax around the edge. And then you put that back in the mouth and you say, look, just gently slide in, and you're going to feel the pin go into a little hole. That pin just slots straight up into the hole and then locked in.
Yeah.
And then you squirt all your registration around it.
And then even if then your pinhole then comes away, they've still got it, they're still regged in that position anyway. So it doesn't matter.
They can't really get out of it. You know, once you've got them locked in, they're going nowhere. But yeah, this was just to show that case, because this is like a classic. This is another one where, you know, you said, oh, what kind of case would it go? Well, this lady, you could use a leak edge on, but this was a stabilization case where I'm quite, I don't know, cautious dentist. So like this comes in, she's not, the first thing with this case is not deprogram the mandible. You know, we've got some problems to sort first. So she goes through stabilization and we get her to here. So we've taken out anything that can't be fixed and just composite to fix everything else. And then, okay, cool, let's get some articulated models in centric relation. And that's when we get to this. So it's a staged process. It's not, like I said, it's not just every patient and whatever.
Yeah. So you've done a sort of a preliminary reg in a lot of the cases if it's a complete. So you're then making this almost as a secondary registration, or are you doing it sometimes as like exploratory sort of?
Yeah. So a lot of these cases will be tooth wear, where we're going to be restoring probably either all the remaining teeth on one arch anyway. And then, so from that, so then so this case, for example, I didn't do any sort of pre-registration. I just said sort of, you know, line them up with your by hand, you can get it doesn't. It's not like it has to be within a millimeter or whatever.
Yeah.
Just get it close, and just make sure that the teeth don't touch, and that I've got enough space to dial this pin up so that you can get enough space. And then you send it off for your wax up.
Fine.
So might be useful just to say some things that I did wrong initially.
Yeah, sure, always.
Because otherwise you learn the hard way. So that case that was the perio case where you had all the teeth, the lab made it in special tray material and when colleted around basically every single tooth. And that was a bit of a nightmare because everything's moving anyway. It doesn't need to collet around every single tooth like that. But just enough that,
Stable.
yeah, exactly. And then the second most important thing is that the pin or the plate is on a stable base. So I had one where they put the plate, they didn't use any special tray material. So this is special tray material base with the plate waxed in. I had one once where it just came back on a wax rim. And I was like, well, to be honest, I didn't tell them put it on special tray material. So, whatever. And I didn't know if it would work or not. I didn't think, oh, that's not going to work. I was like, oh, okay, whatever, just try it. Started doing it. It was growing great, got her into a nice position. I was like, okay, and then just closed down onto that, and she bit, and the plate just went straight through to the floor of her mouth. And I was like, oh, damn, okay, that's an important lesson. Stable base is the most important part. Otherwise, I'll just crash through it.
So, I mean, should we go on to then lab stuff then? So, what communication are you doing? What are you prescribing? Is it something that you're sort of, I'm assuming now that you've done it enough times that your technician's quite happy doing it and you guys sort of already know what you're going to be doing. But yeah, for someone who, I mean, me included, I've never done one, what kind of things are you going to say? Check with your technician and they're happy doing it, because it's going to be one of those things like Facebook that if you send it to someone who doesn't want to use it, it's going to end up on the side and they're not actually going to do it, and you're going to spend all this time. So is it? Yeah. What do you think with that? What sort of lab questions and prescription stuff?
So first thing to say is that I don't know if my lab guys are on. Probably listening tonight, guys at Octopus.
Class.
Quality, absolute quality, and they're such helpful blokes that if you want to message them and ask them, and they say, yeah, okay, this is what you should ask for, not what Alan told you to send out. Then drop them a message. They're so helpful, and that's actually been my main. Everyone you see, like these amazing, like you with Ricardo, these incredible post-op photos, it's super artistic and whatever, but I just found the communication was with these guys. As soon as I started using them, we set up a WhatsApp group. I think they probably regret that massively. I mean, I called them today at lunchtime. I reckon I've probably texted them like 4 times today. They're just like, mate, leave us alone. But yeah, just that communication and I turned up with this. I was like, guys, I've just been on a Finley Sutton course, and they weren't like, oh God, you're going to start to ask for some really difficult things. They were like, that's awesome. What did you learn? Let's nail it. But so the first thing was, I was like, guys, I want a Gothic Arch setup. They're like, okay, cool. And then we didn't talk for a couple of days, and they were like, are you going to send us the plates? I was like, I thought you guys would have the plates. So the first thing is you have to buy the plates. So I just got whatever ones Finley recommended, which is the Gerber condylator. And you only get one pin. So I don't know I think I do quite a few of these, to be honest, compared to to probably average, and one set has been enough for me. And then you get a whole variety of plate sizes for different size mouths. So yeah, first job is to actually, you need to buy the plate. I think it comes from Switzerland. It's like, I think it's like 150 quid, which is quite a lot, I guess, for a little piece of metal. But if you're going to use it multiple times, and it is going to make a difference on a big case, so it's worth it. So first step, buy the set. If anyone wants to know which one it is, by all means, message me. I can't remember. I think it's the 105. So then, now I just ask Gothic Arch setup, please, because we've sort of practiced it and got there. And there might be problems, to be honest, that I haven't come across yet. For example, I was chatting to a guy, Chris O'Connor, a guy who runs Incidental, and he said, "Oh, that's a fantastic idea for your lab, using the a special tray material as a base." I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a good idea, because I haven't seen an alternative." And he said he's had issues where they've used just standard acrylic. Here he is. Using standard acrylic, and it's a real pain. So,
well, like sort of base plate material.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, that looks really, really smart." So, special tray material for the base plate. So, started touching on that question about the plate angulation and positioning. Is you then get it set. So this was a mistake I made in that fully dentate one, is the plate was then set into the special tray material. Well, if you need to change the angle of it, which actually I haven't had to do yet, you want to be able to get this plate out and reset it in wax. Technically, that should be held in wax. And then you get this one's probably a little bit on the big side. So the plate doesn't need to be as big as this. And so you might think, well, what's the downside? Well, the wax rim here is quite small. And so I've just notched it like you would a standard wax rim. But you get a better engagement if you have a good amount of wax there. So solid base. Make sure you've already got the plates, wax rim around the side, and also you can set the plate into the palette a bit more than this. So like the one I just did recently, you let the plate go up into the palette a little bit more, and it's just easier to dial in. That's pretty much it, I think, from the lab side.
Yeah. So what's the obviously you've already mentioned like leaf gauge and things like that. Are you still finding that you're going back to certain other ways of doing it, or do you find now that this is working for you and you're going to keep using it?
So for those situations where I can't use a leaf gauge, definitely I'll use this. The downside of it is you've got to have an appointment beforehand. So say you've got a patient in, okay, it's a wear case or a full mouth rehab or a big case. In our practice, our first step will be to take a set of articulated study models. So that will be a set of impressions, a face bow, a bite record in centric relation. And then we set up the models ourselves, blah, 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 and do a wax up.
Well, you do all your own setups, don't you?
I set up the bites, so I will send it off, get them to pour up the casts, and so like for this case, for example, this is like the same case. We'll get the one set of models, and it's basically like a before and after. You show the patient, oh, this is what you look like, and this is where we're going to take you, and we'll fill in the gaps and stuff. So I'll get the lab to set up the top to the face bow, and then I will set up the bottom with the bite, because the bite is the most important bit, and it's just good practice, really. Ask me in 5 years. I don't know. It's good practice, and you know it's you know it's right, and if it's not right, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You can't just blame the lab. So yeah, that's the downside of a Gothic Arch tracing, is you can't just do it at that appointment. You have to send the impressions off, get the tracing made, get the patient back, do the tracing, blah blah blah. So yeah, if you have another method, so say you like by manual manipulation, or Lucia jig, or a leaf gauge, or whatever, it's quicker and cheaper, and easier. But for those situations where, and sometimes they're borderline, like sometimes you look at a case, it's like, I don't know, say it's like 4-4, or they've got only to 5 on one side and a 6 on the other, and it's just like, I'm not going to get a decent registration there. I have cases all the time, yeah, where I start with the intention of a leaf gauge. You put the leaf gauge in, and you're like, and slide backwards and clench. It's not going to work.
It's not going to happen. Get the models, send it back to the lab. I think we've got, I don't know if you've seen our module or seen about the module, but we've got one of those.
That looks awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's got a Gothic Arch setting. I can't imagine that it doesn't, because it can do everything else. I'm still trying to get my head around it dentures wise. Partials, partials, it'll be easy to do. But yeah, completes, I think it would be amazing to be able to use it, but I'm just not sure how to work it, because you've got to have this, you need a scan essentially inside the mouth, and you import your iTero scan into it, and then you use these markers to set points in the mouth, and it works out where they are compared to the markers and stuff. So it'll definitely be able to do Gothic Arch, and then your lab has it in this digital articulated thing.
Amazing. How long does it take?
So I think Nick's done a few bits of it now. It's like anything. When you first do it, it takes ages. Like when we first got it, we did a tutorial on me, and it took us like 40 minutes to sync the thing up. But I think now he's getting it pretty sharp, and you don't have to do all of it. I think it's got like 15 different options for movements.
Really?
But also you can play loops of the protrusive and lateral excursions, and you can do Gothic Arch setting, I'm pretty sure. But it's like anything. Once you get used to doing it, you get quicker at it. How long are you booking for Gothic Arch recording?
I mean, like I said, I'm quite slow, so I just book like half an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes it takes like 5 minutes. If you want to make sure that your disc is nicely attached and has got a lovely pattern of wax for your photo, maybe it takes a few minutes.
That's what's really coming about, isn't it? It's how nice you want the photo of it to be.
Well, yeah. Once I've got enough documented cases, maybe I'll put like 10 minutes. But no, it doesn't have to take that long. It's a bit like fitting a colleted denture. Sometimes they just seem to click in, other times they need a bit of adjustment. It's the same with this. Sometimes you need to adjust the collets on the tray a little bit. I suppose the main one is actually the deprogramming process. So how long do you want them to slide around on the pin for? You might want them to be sliding for like 5 minutes. Just leave them there sliding backwards and forwards. It's just going to get more and more accurate. The really nice thing about this is that it's completely like patient, muscly guided. So where the leaf gauge, you say, I'll bite down on that and slide forward, slide backwards, clench your teeth a little bit, and it's being pushed into the position. With this, the muscles become more and more relaxed. And so it technically becomes more and more accurate the longer that they're in it.
Because there's no resistance, it's not
but yeah, I maybe put like half an hour. It's pretty stress-free appointment. And if I've actually recognized that I needed to do it, then I'll take that time off of my articulated models appointment. But usually what happens is I book the full time for articulated models, realize halfway through I can't take the bite, and then book them another half an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite straightforward actually.
Yeah, it's anything, isn't it? You just do it enough times, and you get better at it, quicker at it.
Yes, and so I have a time check on my Instagram. It's just telling me like you've nearly been on Instagram for too long today. So if it logs me up, I'll just log it back on a sec. But
do you have any other bits there, or should we just see if anyone has any other questions?
yeah, get some. I did get one question about do I use this for tooth wear? Yes, absolutely. Like the case I just showed, it's tooth wear. It's great if they've got some edentulous areas, but if you can use a conventional method that you're happy with, then that's a bit quicker. Okay, yeah, questions. Where did I learn about it? Where can you read more about it? I learned about it on a course with Finlay Sutton. There's not much more to it, really. There are, you know, just Google Gothic Arch Tracing, dentistry. It's a really old method, and yeah, it's not overly complicated. Yeah, you might make a few mistakes initially, but you know, you'll learn from them, and don't make my mistakes. Maybe there's other mistakes that I probably haven't made yet. So yeah, it's not that complicated. You should be able to give it a go, basically, with what we've discussed tonight.
Another one there then, cost-wise, you know, are labs charging you extra? I'm assuming they are, because it's time. And if so, you passing it on to the patient. Well, it sounds like half the time you're saying you maybe don't even plan to do Gothic Arch, and then suddenly you're like, oh crap, we need another appointment, and are you sort of with costs, are you sort of saying it's going to take me probably 5 clinical hours, whatever it is, and it's going to be at X amount, and then adding in a lab fee, or
so there's two scenarios really for that. One is if I'm doing articulated study models, planning a big case, then our practice has a set fee for case planning.
Exploration and
yeah, exactly. So if they need a CT scan, they get a CT scan in that. If they need whatever, so I just include it. If it's a case where I look at it and I'm like, okay, you're going to have a partial denture, and we're going to rebuild some teeth as well, and I want to get your bite in CR, then I'll book an appointment and charge for that. If I'm honest, I don't know what the lab fee is. I tend not to check that sort of thing. It's usually depressing. So yeah, I'm happy with the work. I don't ask price. So I don't know what the lab fee is. It's not mega, probably like the same as setting up some rims. You can always message the guys at Octopus and ask them. They're very open about that sort of thing. In terms of billing the patient, I just bill them for the time. If I am on the ball enough to work out that I need to take the time.
Yeah, so just build in always. Well, especially like big denture case or things like that. I always build in a bit of extra time anyway, because if you say you might need 2 reviews or something like that, you're building in a bit of extra time anyway, aren't you? So
100%, yeah.
Next one then, someone said, do you recommend leaf gauge rather than other methods? So it sounds like from what you said tonight that leaf gauge is your go-to.
I like leaf gauge.
Yeah.
Only because I'm not very good at bimanual manipulation. And that's where I started. I started with that, and then I was doing that with a Lucia jig. And I don't know, it's very operator sensitive. And it just, I don't know, it didn't work that well for me. Quite like the look of leaf gauge, and tried it out a few times, had good success with it. Really quite repeatable, I found. So yeah, I love using the leaf gauge as a standard centric relation method.
It's just what works best in your hands, isn't it, and what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people do that. Some people use a Coisty programmer. That's another nice method. It's whatever you like to use.
So next up, we've got what material was it again that you were placing on the plate to sort of record the markings? And
that
the name
was
of the plate manufacturer.
Yes. So the green marking was occlude.
Got you? There you go. You're back.
That's my phone trying to kick me out. Yeah, so occlude spray. It's for marking up chromes for high spots and stuff, I think. That's what I usually use it for. Or yeah, Chinagraph pencil, which is a word I've heard used a lot but never actually found. Chinagraph pencil. I don't know if it's like a makeup pencil or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I just use the green spray. Just
something that can be rubbed off. So yeah, it's the green spray that you're using for framework try-ins and things like that.
And the brand of the plates was Gerber Condylator. Just Google it. I'll put it up on my story, the picture and the name of it and stuff. I think it comes from Switzerland. It takes like a week or so to come. I think it's a pretty small company, to be honest. And this partials set is the 105. I'm pretty confident that's it, but I'll put it up later and just confirm that.
Oh, perfect. Niall's an interesting one there. For completes, are you having it set up on your special trays and taking it once you've done the upper and lower impressions, if that makes sense? So if it makes it more stable. So that sounds a little bit like what the BPS system is, isn't it? It does like a sort of all-in one kind of record. But are you making these? Are you doing that, or are you doing this based on, you've done your secondary impressions, you've just sent those off, and they're going to give you a separate acrylic? So I think that's what he's asking, isn't it? Is you getting them to set up on a special tray? But that's sort of the BPS system, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that does look very cool actually, and I like that.
Ricardo keeps nagging me to do it. I think I might have to do it at some point. It does look good.
Yeah,
we'll
go for it. Okay, fine. I've seen it done, and it looks pretty slick actually. That bite record, but no, this is like the opposite of that. It's old school, I think. For completes, you need to have done wax rim stage, because just to give you an idea of the height. It's not crucial, but it just, you don't want to have someone massively overly propped open, because
then
if you are doing your
move in properly.
Exactly, yeah, it's still got to be in its hinge axis, rather than being massively propped open
on the slide. Yeah. Cool.
Exactly.
That might be it. Any other last minute questions? All of mine were just what the hell is the Gothic Arch Tracing? That was all my questions were. So I think we've covered that.
I think I'm just thinking back to the questions I got sent on my DM. I think I covered everything. It's pretty I think it was just the one about tooth wear. So, but if anyone gets stuck and anyone wants to ask me how it's done, happy to, like I said, learn from my mistakes. And if you want a lab side of things, get in touch with the guys at Octopus. They're super helpful. And there's some, I'm pretty sure this is covered somewhat on if people are keen enough to log on to watch a Gothic Arch Instagram live, then I would assume they'd probably be keen enough to watch Finley Sutton webinars that are on YouTube. Yeah. He covers this as well on there. And I did his course and it was awesome. And I still, sometimes before a case, I'll go back and watch his little webinars and just like double check.
Which one did you do? Which one? He's got quite a few, hasn't he?
Yeah, I did the partials. And it's one of those things where you do a course like that and you're like, oh yeah, I think I got it. And then you go to do it and it's such fine detail. And I mean, you'll know that from all the cases, like your cases you put it up, you're like, oh yeah, that's an awesome impression. But it didn't take like 5 seconds to do. There's lots of little details in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the level that you go on his resources and stuff, the level of documentation is just, I know he's partly doing it for resources, but it's like yeah, the amount of the attention to detail is just insane, isn't it? I'm looking at that partial. There's an immediate one as well. I'm thinking of doing that one as well. Someone's asked about window impressions. But yeah, we're gonna do. What, you're not a fan? Yeah, we'll do that soon.
Mate. Oh,
I think Instagram's trying to get rid. I think that's Instagram telling us to get it over with, isn't it? Hi, buddy.
Cheers, man. Me or was that you?
Who knows? I think I'm going to say that it's yours. It's your phone that's telling you to go and have dinner or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's. I just put that on there. I was like, I end up just kicking 50 more minutes. 50 more minutes every day. It doesn't work. It does
nothing at all. All right, man. Cool. I think we'll leave it there then, guys. Cheers, Alan, mate. That was really, really good. I'm going to have to go and do a Gothic Arch case now.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing it, mate.
Good, man. I'll get you back on for the chat about window impressions then, by the sounds of it.
I'll be listening.
Cheers, man. Catch
you later. See you, mate.